Hey everybody, John Huber here from the Maryland Education Network. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the Kirwan Commission. Just a quick little update, let you all know what's going on. You remember the Kirwan Commission? Remember all the craziness that went on at the beginning of 2021? All the arguments and whatnot. Well, it's getting ready to come to fruition. Tell you a little. So if you're not sure exactly what the Kirwan Commission is, go on my YouTube channel, take a look. I've got tons of videos on there, some detailed explanations of what's going on. The bottom line is, it's a lot more money heading to education, a lot of new programs, a lot more government. You know, whether you like it or don't like it, the fact is it's coming. Just as a brief overview, you may remember late 2019, early 2020, the commission presented its final recommendations to the General Assembly. There was a bunch of hoopla on both sides, and eventually it was passed. They passed it in March of and I'm looking at notes here. They passed it in March of 2020. And as a matter of fact, they passed it like on March 14th, which was like a Saturday. And I remember this because Friday the 13th was the last day that I was in school because of the coronavirus, the shutdown because of COVID-19. This was like one of the last things that the General Assembly did that year, was they passed this on their way out. So they passed it in March of 2019, or excuse me, March of 2020. And then it kind of sat there. It was vetoed by the government a few months later in May of 2020, and then it kind of sat there for almost a year until February of 2021, when the Assembly actually kind of got back together and they overrode it. And they overrode his veto, which means within 30 days it'll turn into law. And that's pretty much what happened about mid-March of this year, well, I'm saying this year, this is New Year's Eve. Mid-March of 2021, this technically went into effect and became law. But what happened was, what's interesting is that right around that time, they also came out with this, what they call Kirwan 2.0. Just kind of some additions, some not necessarily amendments. Nothing really fundamentally changed in the law. But what they did was they wanted to change some of the deadlines because they had lost a whole year because of the pandemic. They submitted that in April of 21, this past April, and the governor basically did not sign it. He didn't veto it. He didn't do anything. And by virtue of the fact that he did not do that, it becomes law. You know, that's one of the tricks that the executives have. You can either sign it, or you can veto it, or you can do nothing. If they do nothing, then it becomes law, and that's what he did. So it became law pretty much in April of this past year. Then the interesting thing was, then they started, as required in this legislation, they started creating these oversight boards and whatnot. There was this AIB, the Accountability and Implementation Board, was created through a 6-person nominating committee. So the nominating committee provided, this is interesting, they gave 9 names to the governor for a 7-person board. Well, a lot of people objected to that, and they said, that these 7 people, or the limited, the governor was even, kicking and screaming, saying, I need more people to choose from. I need a wider variety. They didn't do it. They didn't respond. People started expressing concerns about the lack of diversity, the lack of representation among all the 27, I can't remember how many counties it is, I think it's 24 counties. But then people say, well, it's impossible to represent all 24 counties with only 7 people. Some people were saying that there's not enough representation of the outlying counties, the Eastern Shore and out in the Western state. So there was a lot of concern about that. The governor was really kind of limited. They gave him 9 names for a 7-person board. So right off the beginning, there's a little problem. But anyway, he did, by law, he submitted his 7 names, and they were all approved. And now here's where we are. So we have the 7-person board, the Accountability and Implementation Board is in place, and their first act as a board is coming up in just a few weeks. In February, on February 15th of 2022, they need to submit an implementation plan. And that's where it's really going to start laying out all the nuts and bolts of what's coming down the pike. And it will officially go, the funding and all the official implementation will begin in July 1st of 2022, which is right around the corner. So that's kind of where we are with the Kirwan Commission. The interesting thing is the governor did provide funding for it in his budget for the first year of 2022. In fiscal 22, the one that starts this July 22nd, there's funding for it at least the first year in his budget. He's opposed to it, but he doesn't really have a lot to do. He doesn't really have a lot of choice. He has to submit these names for these boards and whatnot. So he did provide the funding for it. So that's where we are. It's coming again. If you don't know what it is, take a look on my YouTube channel. There's lots of videos there about all the different things that are getting ready to come down. So don't let them fool you. It is coming. They haven't forgotten about it. And then all of a sudden, come this July, you'll start hearing a little bit about it. And then particularly next fall, a lot of things are really going to start coming into play. So that's a quick wrap up of where we are for the Kirwan Commission. And thanks a lot for listening. And I hope you have a terrific 2022.